Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here. Let's do a little bit of comments on this video called Hillary Would Have Been Worse. Now give me 30 seconds to do a couple comments and then we'll get to the real meat of the potatoes. The real meat and potatoes, which is Chespokatata and his comment there. But we also have the person I was addressing the video to, Daniel Mayo. His response, you can go watch the video, but his response is, wow, way to drop the context of my comment and completely misrepresent it by focusing on only one line of it. If anyone's displaying disintegrated thinking here, it's you. Well, Daniel, I think I spoke to the essence of your comment, and if you want to tell me, as I replied to, if you want to tell me the substantive thing that you think is going on, I'm certainly willing to address it. I mean, you did a comment and I did a whole video addressing one line of that comment. So I'm trying to address the situation here. What is your concern now? Okay, so Daniel Mayo is just name calling and then running away, he's saying misrepresent and disintegrated, and then he runs away. He doesn't tell me more. Tell me more, Daniel. Tell me more. Hold my hand and teach me, Daniel. Okay. Brian has a little bit of a concern here. He says, quote me from the video, let's make sure we raise tariffs high enough that we can produce steel profitably? Question mark. So, if that confuses you, yes, we have high costs in America. Things cost a lot, and that's because people are rich, so they charge a lot for their time. So, labor costs a lot, and therefore everything made by that labor costs a lot, and therefore those things cost a lot, and so everything costs a lot in a rich country. So if we're going to produce steel at a profit, we've got to make sure the price is high enough that we can pay the wages of the workers in our economy. Now, again, largely I think that we should import cheap things as long as we can get them from another free country that we don't mind enriching. So I'm not against free trade, and I'm not under the delusion that tariffs make things profitable. I said raise tariffs high enough that steel is profitable. Now, we should probably do this with something like computer chips or something that nobody else on the planet can make, right? Nobody has the technology or the capacity to do that. So we should raise tariffs on those, and all those plants around the world would shut down, and computer chips would be manufactured only in the United States. That's one thing that we could do. We're not going to be able to do it with steel, because it's very low technology. Anybody in the world can produce it. All right, now I've gone on too long already on the beginning comments. He also says, Trump is certainly right to restrict trade with China. They're communists and want to destroy America, end quote, question. Yes, China are communists. Yes, China wants to destroy America. True. And Trump is correct to restrict trade with them, put tariffs on or whatever. Massively restrict trade with them. Total embargo. Yes, let's do it. Okay. Now to the main meat and potatoes. Chespokatata. Seems like the spook from the old days. He's about as dumb. Okay, he says, thinking from my own self-interest, I'm not going to support an ideology that protects the same people that finances communism. I see no point in helping my destroyers. So capitalism, he says, finances communism. He thinks that the right and the left are opposites, and that capitalism is just some mixed up garbage. Capitalism is an unprincipled bunch of garbage. But the real principles are the left, which is communism, and the right, which is, I think, ethno-statism, or certainly statism. But he is just deadly confused. And Sibo has said, go read some Rand and get back to us. That's about what the guy needs to do. He needs to read a bunch of Rand. But he thinks that fascism and communism are opposites, and they're not. They're identical. Fascism is just like chocolate flavor, and communism is vanilla flavor, but they're both ice cream. They're both made of sugar. They're both at the ice cream counter. They're identical. They're identical. There's nothing different there but the flavor. Okay? So let's talk about the main subject of what we want to say here. How far into this video are we already? I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the real subject of this video. Communism is funded by capitalism. He says he won't support an ideology that finances communism. So I want to give you a little wake-up call. Communism has no source for money. Okay? Their philosophy is the philosophy of destruction. They have no source for wealth. Okay? Wealth comes from using the mind. They're against that, philosophically, at the very, very bottom, at their very base. So they have to have little contradictions inside their society that they despise and loathe. Those are what drive their society, the little contradictions here and there. Like in the 1920s, it was the NEP in Russia, and then throughout the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, it was little towns, villages, and even cities that didn't have secret police, and they were stocked with foreign goods, and they had foreign engineers, Americans there and stuff, building factories and doing things, running things. They had this upper class elite, not really upper class, but just separated from the arbitrary arrests and the terror into little secret enclaves, little closed off towns. And you weren't free to leave the town, but as long as you're inside those little towns or cities, you were safe compared to regular Russians. I mean, of course, you're still in a dictatorship, and if you displease Khrushchev or whoever, you'll disappear the next day, of course. But even Russia had these things. Now we see China doing it. Now, what about North Korea? Okay, let's mention Cuba first. Cuba was extremely rich. It was like a little American vacation spot. Okay, imagine one of America's richest little vacation spots declaring independence and going communist. Some, Catalonia off California or something like that, or Martha's Vineyard or something. Some very, very wealthy little place declares itself independent and becomes communist. Okay? Communism is funded by capitalism because they have no place else to get the money. Now let's go to North Korea. What funds North Korea? Their capitalist enterprise, namely money laundering, production of counterfeit money, drug trade, production in weapons, right? They actually make and sell things that are demanded by people. That's how North Korea funds itself. Okay? Now, you might say counterfeiting is crime and stuff, but I'm just pointing out the general fact that they do not, that communism's not productive. Okay? They have to do something to get money from the capitalist system and then buy things from the capitalist system. Or become capitalists themselves, become producers themselves. But that would require them to be Hong Kong or something. China is communist because they can turn around at any second and reverse their whole system. Any second. Or any 5-year plan. Any 5-year plan can turn things backwards. Alright, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. I think we've said what we need to say. Communism is funded by capitalism because there's no other place for capitalism to get the money. Let me finish up by saying we fund everybody. Capitalism funds everybody, right? We rebuilt Germany in the 1930s. We shipped all of this extra scrap iron to Japan starting in 1905 or starting in the 1890s, really. We were shipping all kinds of material to Japan. They turned around and used it to fight us. Let's see, in Russia in the 1930s, we built all kinds of things for Russia. They bought it, they paid for it with gold. They seized from the peasants, or the grain they seized from the peasants and sold for gold on international markets, and then purchased American equipment and factories and German equipment and factories. But where did Germany get the equipment and factories? America and Britain rebuilt Germany, okay? Or modernized Germany. So everything traces back to America and Britain. But why? Nobody else has any money. Now let me also mention that we also, helped build the modern versions of France and Canada and Mexico and the modern Japan and South Korea and India was built. Its important things were built by the West, although it had some garbage built by the Soviets. I'm not sure if those steel plants are still even working. But the Soviets didn't know how to build steel plants without the steel plants that we built for them. So it doesn't matter. It all comes back to us, even there. Always, 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 everything comes back to the West. Nobody has anything but the capitalists. Every system is poverty-stricken without capitalists. So, he says he's not going to support an ideology that finances communism. There's no other ideology. There's only capitalism. There's capitalism or poverty. It's your choice. Be capitalist or be poverty-stricken. We don't always fight with the people that we enrich and support. You know, like we're not at war with France today. We're not at war with South Korea today. We're not at war with Japan today. So we don't always end up fighting those who we support and build. But the opposite is sort of true. Everyone that we fight, we supported and built. It's even true of Saddam Hussein. You can even go back really far and say that it was true of America versus Britain, and it was true like in 1770s, and it was true of America and the Civil War in the South. So it's always, always true that the productive side is where all the wealth comes from. So your choice is to support the productive people or not. And you've chosen some sort of garbage ethno-state or something. All right, ladies and gentlemen, patronize me if you choose to support my content, and you want me to make more, and you want me to be a reliable supporter, you want me to be on here all the time doing great interviews and short little thoughtful videos like this. If you want that, please patronize me, $5 or $10 a month, or $50, whatever you can. And let's try to get my stream up to $400, $500, $600 so I can have it as a part-time job and actually not feel bad and guilty about the time that I spend doing these videos. Mr. Cropper out.